Welcome to the Keen on Yoga podcast, bringing you the stories of many people who in various ways are attempting to walk the path of yoga. Our intention is to inspire your own practice and commitment to yoga beyond the mat and in all areas of life. We consider this an offering, a service to the community and labour of love. If you feel inclined, any donations are appreciated. Just visit our page and click the donate button at www.keenonyoga.co.uk/podcast. I hope you enjoy the show. Kristina Karitinou Ireland started practicing in 1991, introduced by her late husband, Derek Ireland, at what was the practice place in yoga, now is Yoga Plus in Crete. She then practiced for many years with Derek, went to Mysore, became authorized, and upon Derek's passing, started practicing and teaching in Brighton, where she lived and brought up her two sons, subsequently moving to London, and then more recently back to Crete. Now she has a yoga studio in Crete in Rethmano, where she practices, teaches, mentors, teachers, and also practices Zen Buddhism, which she's very keen on. Kristina is certified by Manju Jois to teach up to Advanced A, including series. Welcome, Kristina.
Thank you so much, Ian, for inviting me. I've been introduced on Ashtanga Vinyasa Yoga by the mother of a friend of mine when I was 18. And she just said to me, your body, because at the time I was doing theater and dance, your body is not for dance, she said to me, it's for Ashtanga Yoga. And because a few years earlier, I did try some yoga when I was 16, that was Hatha Yoga mainly. I said, okay, why not? Let's have, let's try and see how it is. And she suggests to me to go to a yoga center that they call it Lotos, and the teacher was a student of Derek's. So the first class I did with her was like, what is this? It was like, I was so enthusiastic because I felt on my body, what I used to see on ancient Greek statues. Because my mother, she used to take me all over Greece. Her work is like a tour guide. And I used to see this opening on the chest and this vitality on the faces, on the statues and the beautiful bodies. And I experienced from inside, with the use of the breath and experiencing the flow, I experienced exactly, I said, this is it. On my second class, I gave up everything on my studies and I said, this is what I'm going to do. And the teacher, she was so inspired. Her name was Linda Kapitaniou, and also I studied there with Periklis Christolopoulos. Greek names, huh?
I don't remember them.
Yes.
Where was that? In Lutro?
No, I'm not from Crete. I am from Athens. I've been born in Athens. I've been born in Plaka, under Acropolis. I'm 100%, yeah. And my parents, they've been born in Athens too.
Yeah, okay. Right in the center.
Yes, just under Acropolis, okay. But the thing is that this center was in Athens, and it was the team of these three people, actually, Linda, Periklis, and the thing is that they was doing so amazing work, and Eleni Kyriakopoulou was the third person, who was actually one of the first people to go to Mysore and study with Pattabhi Jois directly. And Eleni Kyriakopoulou, and also Alexandra Dimitriou. So all these people, they've been the people actually that really inspired me, for the Ashtanga. Yeah. So that was my beginning.
Then you came to Crete,
I came to Crete, yes. And I came to Crete 2 years later because my teacher, Linda Kapitaniou, said to me, I cannot take you further. Her practice at the time was up to Navasana. And she really felt for me that actually maybe she saw some potential already. I was giving myself too much into the practice. And slowly, I start, because I was studying next to her in all the yoga classes she was teaching at the time. It was Iyengar, yoga therapy and everything. I would just be on the classes full time, just sit on the corner and take notes and realize, apart from my practices, of course. And she just fell for me and she said, I can see a potential that actually you need to get further into your practice. And she said, are you going to go to Pattabhi Jois or you're going to go to Derek Ireland, to my teacher. And I called Pattabhi Jois because back then, obviously, we did not have, even emails were not existing, right?
Yeah.
And I called him and I said, can I come, in June? And he said, no, if you want to come, you have to come now. And it was May or something. It was beginning of May. I said, I cannot really come now. So I postponed my my traveling to him for a few years later. And I went to Crete. And I went to Crete to study with Derek, And yes, this is how things started.
Yeah, right. Okay, and obviously we both have history with that centre. Me, later, and you, very early days of the practice place. And we've touched upon it in many of the podcasts that this was a kind of hub, or really the kind of the hub of Ashtanga Yoga in Europe, which is not really known these days. It's not, people don't know that really Europe. Derek started Ashtanga in Europe, and it came from this place called the Practice Place in Crete, right?
Absolutely. So what's happening was that actually Derek and Radha, his ex-girlfriend before me anyway, they were in Bahamas studio of Shivananda, the Shivananda studio in Bahamas, okay? And they was running the place. They were running the place. And that had given them the knowledge of how to run an ashram.
Yeah.
So basically, Derek has been introduced into the Ashtanga in this place in Bahamas by Swami secretly. He taught him, the practice, and then he took all this knowledge of how to run an ashram, and he wanted at some point, few years later, to create a center in Europe, that it was the first Ashtanga Yoga center, right? Mm-hmm. But it was not just in the form of a yoga studio. It was in a form of ashram. So in this place, we used to go, we will practice, we will work for 6 hours, in order to have good food, amazing practice with Derek, amazing practice, right?
The legacy was still running even after he passed away, and I would say it was quite, there was definitely a strong community around it. You could even say army, where it was a hard work. That place was run along tough lines, and you worked hard,
Lines.
Yeah.
If we take the location, okay, we all know that actually this is a place actually for somebody to experience huge, strong wind. Okay,
yes.
So,
yes.
Whoever been in this place, you had the challenge of the weather, a beautiful, amazing place, of course. But we had to run a place that actually had to offer meals. They had to feed people outside. So all of us, Gingy Lee, John Scott, Michaela Clark, me, all Hamish. Obviously, we used to have a work there. One is going to be for the terrace, one is going to be for the rooms. But the most important thing, this is what is missing from the community now, is that we work on karma yoga. We work because it was not for us. It was for the guests. It was for the people that will come, that will be introduced, that will practice. And this part, I think, is what created a team of students that they will have a sense of responsibility, and they will try to give the best on the teaching for the people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And can you just say a little bit about Derek for people that don't know Derek? Obviously, he, even his legacy, when I arrived a couple of years later after he passed away, he was still very well talked of and known there. He's a huge personality, very formative on the teachers that you mentioned, Gingy Lee from London, Hamish from London, John Scott internationally, many places.
There were so many of us. I'm sorry, I cannot say all the names. There are many from many countries.
Even people you don't realise went there, they did,
The energy, because the energy is passing through the lineage. It's something nobody can stop. And sometimes with this situation, we see that actually some people, they, when they go finally to India, then they start to refer directly to Sri Pattabhi Jois or to Sharat or anything. But the real work, it happened far before that. But from the senior teachers that actually every day they had to pull the ribs and they lift their bodies, to teach us, 5, 6 things to be able to understand what we will receive later from the Indian gurus. Okay, so this is a big thank you, to our senior teachers. And I think that basically that is a contribution of them. Now about Derek, I mean, what somebody can say about Derek, most of us, we've seen the pictures, and even from the pictures, somebody understand that actually was a person that was beautiful inside and outside. That was really, we talk about very strong character, shy at the same time.
I didn't realize that. Right. I mean, obviously the pictures are amazing. He does look like a Greek god, doesn't he?
Yes.
And he wasn't a professional football player. Didn't he?
Well, what happened, Derek had a troubled history for some years, but he's been born in 1949 in Brighton, and he was a young man on his 20s when the 70s was arising. So basically he was a very strong athlete, and he was involved in football. At some point when he had a really difficult injury, he had to give up his career in football. So, after a few years, he found himself in a really troubled situation with drugs and, a bad use, for his body.
Yeah.
And literally, he escaped from death 2-3 times. So basically, that was really a waking call. The last time was a waking call for him. And it was the period actually he met Radha, and he started to involve into yoga. And they start traveling together, and slowly, the knowledge he has from these troubled years, which actually really easily he couldn't die.
I didn't really, so he was really into drugs, was he?
He was. He passed the period of his life that he had this, his troubled.
Right, I didn't realize that. Right, okay, yes. Right. So that was
was an effect because he was a very strong athlete, and he could not really anymore perform. He could not anymore play because the injury on his knee was so severe. Okay, and it happens. When you deal with this sort of like hormones and situation, it's just very often you find a ways to replace that. And the thing is that being back in 70s, which was his career change, to organize rock bands, and is a whole lifestyle. Okay,
yeah.
So basically, because we never used to talk too much about the past, I really had respect on this, But the thing is that they met each other under these situations. And slowly, he started to change his dynamic by practicing the yoga, by being in an environment that actually was really beneficial for him. He started to use his strength towards the benefit of himself and other people, and that transformed him to this beautiful, amazing creature that actually he was light for all of us. And you can tell that because nobody, after his death, nobody tried to commercialize him, or nobody tried to, use him for his career. All we keep him deep in our hearts, and we are very grateful for him.
Anyone that's been to Gingy or even Hamish as well has a picture in the studio in London. John, John, I love Derek up to this day.
Who can deny, he changed our lives. And he changed the lives of so many people. And at the same time, not only he changed our lives, he gave us the right tools for this. So what's happening after being in Bahamas, he's been introduced by Swami there for the first sequence of Ashtanga. And then he finds part of the lineage, because some people, they will travel to India and he will ask them to find where the tradition of Krishnamacharya is continuing. By the time these people, they went to Mysore, Krishnamacharya already is gone to Madras. So somebody informed Derek already that it was Sri Pattabhi Jois in India. After that, after Bahamas, they went to America, and at the same time, they started to travel backwards and forwards to India and visit Pattabhi Jois every winter, and stay there for months. And we have to understand, back then there will be 6 people, and it was this lineage, that will include no lineage, sorry, the line of teachers that it will include back in 80s, Richard Freeman and Mary, and they will sit for hours after the practice and they will talk about ways of introducing the practice with the safest way to the Western people. So actually, this line of teachers that they have big respect for the one for the other, they brought the Ashtanga to Europe and to the rest of the world.
Yeah.
But taking the principles of Ashtanga, but at the same time using the Iyengar knowledge, using the Shivananda knowledge, use knowledge that actually is common to all the lineages. Okay, so being studying with Pattabhi Jois for years, and being in New York, he decided to come back to Europe. So when he came back to Europe, the first places actually they taught at the time, because they used to teach with Radha at the time, was Skiro Center.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
yeah.
And this was when John met Derek and everything. And after that, he had a strong urge to create an Ashtanga center, only Ashtanga in Europe. Okay, so somehow the information came for Crete, and this is how he started in Crete. Now, then he met me, and then we started to teach. He started to teach because obviously I was a student.
You were his student,
denied.
and
Yes, he denied for me teaching. He said to me, "You're not going to teach. You have to be really, really, really good on teaching, really, really good on your practice. I don't want people to say, actually, you're teaching because you are my girlfriend."
Right.
And he was so right on this, because he will not allow me to take a class by myself. Only 6 years later, because then it was in a situation he will be ill, and then he had to really see my abilities.
He didn't let you until he was really, he didn't have any choice.
Yeah, exactly. He didn't.
Right. I didn't realize. So you had 6 years with him, right?
I was 6 years with him.
And you had two
we
children.
were 6 years unmarried. We married only a few months before his death, with our children.
Yeah.
With our children.
And when he died, you had two children, and one of them was very young, right?
Both of them were very, very young. Yeah. The one was 2, and the other one was 4.5.
Right. Okay.
Okay. So they were both young. But as we talked just for Derek now, he started to work after we met. He started to work in Goa. So we will visit Goa every winter for 3 years, 1995, 96, 97. And this is where he's going to give his first teacher trainings. And actually it was the first teacher trainings in Ashtanga. And the reason he will do that is because he noticed that many students, they will go away from Mysore. They will call themselves direct students of Sri K. Pattabhi Jois, and that will give them the right to teach immediately without any education on variations, without any education on adjustments, just by looking, So basically, the number of injuries that took place at the time in the Ashtanga community, so he said they're going to do it anyway. At least they need to learn a few things before, this situation will start.
And
so actually... Yes.
The teacher training, was he teaching? I mean, this was very early on, before really anyone had any idea of yoga anatomy. I mean, I knew he was teaching in Goa. I didn't, because I've really been interested in the story and, the place for years, and I was a student of John's, but I didn't know that he was teaching a teacher training there. How did that look like? Was he teaching, and what kind of variations was he teaching? Yeah, I'd be intrigued to know.
What kind of variations?
Yeah. And was he teaching
Yes, the variations that actually they respond to each asana. And, each asana should be taught with variations. I mean, this is the way he learned it. This is the way I learned it. This is the way we used to learn yoga. And that's because there was direct contact with the teacher back then. You will not learn from each other. We will learn from the teacher. Now the numbers are too big. Do you know what I mean? So you see a situation in Mysore, people, they go, they study there, that's fine. But if you have 100 people in the class, the teacher cannot be with you and teach you. When you have 6 people, 12 people in the class, then you have the ability, while you're waiting for the adjustment, to see how the teacher is working and operating in the class. That gives you information. And the thing is that for each asana that actually there is in the sequence, there is a line of variations that is very wise a yoga student to learn, because this is the knowledge. There's no any other knowledge. I mean,
these days, there's only one way to do everything, I think. And that's, one reason of these podcasts is to try and show that yoga is a broader kind of idea than just so blank, kind of linear in its development more recently. And what you're suggesting, and I suppose the way you would teach, is that you would give variations on a posture if you see it as more facilitative of a student's development. Is that right?
Absolutely. I'm not going to wait, for somebody to bind Marityasana D in order to put them in Navasana. This is ridiculous.
Mm-hmm.
There's so many with a variation. This is the key. And all this stays on the ignorance of the teachers. The teachers that don't know how to teach variations. They don't know them themselves. So when Derek
went to Mysore, he was given variations by Pattabhi Jois.
Absolutely. Right. Somebody was able to receive the adjustment of Pattabhi Jois, binding Marityasana D, or not bind, but he will continue practicing.
Right.
Okay. I'm not saying that actually take all the postures, at once.
Yeah.
But there is a logic behind the way actually we teach. And we practice up to Navasana. When we introduce somebody, we're going to introduce them up to Navasana, right? Because we want them to build up the strength, and we want them to build up the memory. They're going to stay there for some time, but for this reason. And then when they have to stop in Kurmasana, they're going to work the familiarity with themselves. So we need to see that we don't need to see somebody binding and struggling. We want to see somebody even not binding and be able to be familiar and be able to face himself in the posture. He's working in far more emotional situation.
Mm-hmm.
Then when somebody will finish, because the next stop is going to be the end of the sequence, then it will be because it's going to work on 4 elements: strength, flexibility, stamina, and balance. It's something that it needs as a base, And the thing is that there is a logic on this. The next stop after, of course, the finishing, which is going to be being already introduced after Navasana, is going to be Kapotasana. It's extreme back bend. And then Ekapada Sirsasana. But all these things, we've already been working on the first sequence. We're not just, criticizing people. There are people that actually they stuck in Navasana for 7 years. This is cruel. This is cruel. Because the teacher who has experience of 2 years, maybe he's been authorized for 2 years, the teacher considers these people not ready. And they say, in this life, maybe you never do second sequence because you don't come up from the back bench. Do you understand?
Yeah, I know, of course. I'm on the same, you don't have to convince me I'm on the same program. Well, I remember doing a workshop with you years ago, and I think it was in Leamington Spa, right, with Mark Freeth.
Yes.
Ago. You probably don't remember me in the class. I just started, and I was very, very inspired by you at the time. And it was on back bends, I remember. And you had a very different energy. Also being a female teacher and the back bend workshop, it was fantastic. And I was just thinking along those lines, when do you introduce the second series to people, as you were mentioning? Does that, some teachers, early teachers like Nancy Gilgoff, were suggesting that they were given the second series. Well, they weren't suggesting, they were saying that Pattabhi Jois gave them the second series along with primary series, pretty much. David Swenson, the same thing. We were given this yoga curriculum whereby we did the second series pretty much straight away,
Yeah.
What's your experience in your
I think that David and Nancy, and this is something that I've been thought about it because of the use of the Drusti and balance and everything, they've been already practitioners of yoga for years. So they had the flexibility and they had the ability, to receive the postures with this way at the time. And also, Pattabhi Jois, he will far more see the individual ability of the person. So basically, I will give second sequence when somebody knows the first one and practicing the first one with good strength and stamina, and of course, really good breathing.
Right.
I mean, this is my criteria. The breathing has to be there first, okay? And then stamina and strength. It's not going to stop me on giving second sequence if somebody is binding in Mantyasana D or if somebody is binding in Kurmasana.
How would you qualify good breathing?
Full Ujjayi breath, diaphragm, ribs and chest and inhalation, and diaphragm, ribs and chest and exhalation. The sound of Ujjayi, yes.
You're still calling it Ujjayi because these days.
I'm still calling Ujjayi because this is the way I learn it, and at the same time, it's Ujjayi pranayama. I mean, I think that if they try to make a separation, they should be clear about Ujjayi pranayama and Ujjayi sound.
Right.
Okay. So basically, the opening of the nostrils and this emphasis on the back of the throat with really nice gentle weight, because the beginning of, obviously you feel it on the mask and on the throat and the chest, is the sound of Ujjayi breathing, right? But actually, that's really good, an important point. We need to give emphasis on inhalations, because you may hear somebody breathe with Ujjayi breathing and go like a train. Only an exhalation, but actually this breath is connected very much with the Surya, with the sun. So actually it needs...
So the inhalation, rather than just making, a strong sound in the exhalation, right?
Absolutely, there's no effort there, only sound.
It's easy to breathe like that on the exhalation,
Absolutely.
You're absolutely right. And on that, I mean, I'm kind of wanting to have as much out of you as I can. On that note, there's not so many. I mean, considering that there's mainly or more so women in the practice than men, there's not so many female teachers and less female teachers that will actually agree to an interview. So you are really, only a small handful of female practitioners that are, what I would call very senior teachers. And
why is that?
Well, I don't know. I don't know. I generally bigger egos men. To cut a long story short there, I recognised a very different quality in you that I hadn't recognised in any. In fact, I'd never had any other women teaching me before. Do you feel that there's any difference between men and women? And is your experience as a teacher, do you think, different between being a woman and not a man? Can you say anything about that? Or do you think it's relevant at all to be discussed?
We're not many female teachers, senior female teachers that we're traveling. I mean, I can say that. But no, I don't think that, actually, as soon as you know the techniques and as soon as you have experience, I don't find any difference between male and female.
Okay.
Because you see what's happening is that the method itself is giving us an amazing tool. And this amazing tool is a man is going to recognize and embrace his masculine side, but at the same time, he's going to learn about his and the feminine side as well. The same thing is going to happen to women. So basically, what is happening is not that actually we try to change by practicing the method our identity. We're embracing it, and this is the thing that actually I don't find any difference. I don't find any difference because we are human. And at the same time, yes, we need to work. We all need to work. So, me personally, no, I don't find any difference.
You don't find that the system is structured to a lot more strength than it is to kind of a feminine body. There's no difference.
When you're referring, it depends how you use the system.
Okay.
Now we have this interference of athletes, dancers, acrobatic situation. The thing is that I have great respect for any type and form of art and body education, any type. When we do the yoga itself, it has everything. Okay, so I stick. I stuck with the same way that I learned. I did not change anything. Okay, and I don't change anything because I passed the crisis, that teachers they have on 14 years. They say, oh, I had enough of all the situation, going through the frustration. And what is this Ashtanga method? And I'm going to do my own method. I'm going to name it myself. This is a crisis we passed. We don't really understand by then how beautiful the Ashtanga method is and how much he's teaching us to look after our bodies by knowing our anatomy, by knowing, even through injuries, by recognizing, what we need to be careful, So I just keep the yoga way. Maybe for some it's not yoga way, but this is a part of the lineage is just continue with what you learn. I don't find that there is anything to change in the system.
Okay. And you've been practicing now for at least 30 years, right? Must be. Yeah, right. So what do you, obviously having graduated through practice and through advancing, and you've done the advanced A series, and I think, it says in your biography that Manju has worked with you and certified your advanced A series, which is incredible.
No, I don't say that in the biography.
I thought you did. You were certified with Manju for the advanced A.
Yes, I said that actually I continue my studies with Manju. But the thing is that all of us with Derek, we took first,
did it with
second,
Derek?
and advanced A. All of us we did. Okay.
Oh, really?
And John and Hamish, and we all did that. We went to Mysore ready.
So you all had done it with Derek. You'd all done all those.
Absolutely. So the thing is that what happened when I was in Mysore, I had a conversation with Pattabhi Jois. He showed me the new shala. It was ruined, not ruined. Sorry, they were building it. It was building site. So he took me around to give me a tour for the shala, and then he took me up on the top floor above the shala that actually Saraswati is now. And he said to me, something, here is going to be a living room. It was a huge place. And on each corner, it will be a small flat for each one of us. This is mine, this is Manju's, this is Saraswati, and this is Sharat. So his dream was all the family to live together. And he said, Manju is going to return. Manju is going to return. So this stays in my mind, and
interesting.
Very interesting. Now, what happened after his death? Obviously, we know the mess. Every time that a strong man dies, in a way, there's a preparation about the situation, how the things are going to change and everything. The sure thing is, because he said to me, I cannot say he didn't say to me, he wanted everyone to be part of this. Okay, so when Manju started to visit Crete, a couple of years after his father's death, I understand that actually, and I felt for him because I passed through a similar situation. When Derek died, things have been really ugly. Okay, I stayed without work. I had to, if I wanted to do something, I had to go to the court at the time, and I decided not to do it. I felt that actually he's not been treated well, generally, and also that this did not stop, with his death. It continued after that. So basically, I understood the position of Manju in a way, and then I called Sharat and I said, listen, that actually I am a student and I'm going to be always a student. But this time I need to support Manju. I need to be with Manju because he needs that. And he deserves that. Because Pattabhi Jois.
I didn't realise you actually called Sharat, and you got through and he spoke to you. What did he say? What did he say to you?
He was a bit surprised, but then I think he understood because for him as well, he was in a strange position at the time. It was just a couple of years after the death. We all know he did not jump directly to the position he is now, and but I think he understood. And what is right is right. And I think that basically, as I explained to him, I needed to follow the wish of Sri K. Pattabhi Jois. I cannot, because somebody dies doesn't mean that his wish is dying. That's why we are the students. We are the students there to carry, with what needs to be done.
To backtrack on it a bit, so you kind of felt that you would support Manju as continuing the lineage of Pattabhi Jois, and for what? I mean, to ask a silly question, for what reason? As opposed to
First of all, I met Manju, and he was a really nice man and very caring person.
And he came to teach at the centre.
He came for 6 people back then. He came for 6 people. That was unbelievable, right? Of course, in a few years, we managed to create a really strong community, and that was really great. And the thing is that, apart from that, I couldn't forget what Pattabhi Jois wanted. I won't do that, because I got the message. He wanted everybody to be part of his lineage, and everybody was part of his lineage. He was a father. And he was old in age, and he wanted, to make sure that everybody has fair chances, And obviously, Manju is an amazing, compassionate person as well. So it was clear for me that I could not, I felt secure for Sharat. So, he has the students, he has everyone. Already, some things that were happening. The senior teachers, they've been kicked out. It was a very strange time. It was a bit like dark time. So I had to take a decision, about that. And I was right. I was right in my decision. And at the time, we're creating a community. My students, they have the clarity, to follow, to visit Sharat. Is their right to visit whatever place they want to be. The yoga shalas and the yoga centers in the world, they're made for the students. Right?
Does to bring it back to the line, does Manju teach differently to Sharat? So I haven't, or are they teaching the same thing?
The same.
Right.
The sequences are the same. The method is the same. It doesn't change. You cannot say worse or bad.
Yeah. So more your discrepancy is that Manju essentially should have been carrying on the mantle of Pattabhi Jois and not Sharat, right?
I don't say anything like this. I think the fair and the square thing, as it is now, I think, because everybody found his own community, is that we as students, we don't treat, the lineage with a different way. We're students. Whatever they have to deal with between them. Okay, we are there to support. But at the same time, as senior teachers, we are there to be acknowledged. You know what is the problem, I believe, now, is that students that go to Mysore, they pay the fee for the classes. They don't do any karma yoga. Very few of them that do yoga studies. And they just follow what has been said.
That's a good point. Did Derek encourage you to do anything outside the asana? And do you, for students, encourage people to study yoga philosophy, how would you progress someone's yoga outside just simply the asana? And do you think that's essential?
Okay, first of all, there's not simply the asana. Everything has to do with the body, to me, is the most secret. Without asana, you cannot have spirituality, you cannot have, not without asana, without body. Okay. That's why for me, it's not just a study of. I would say it's far more important for people to experience karma yoga and work for the other people, even more for teachers. Because if a teacher comes out, from whichever school, and he just open the shala, and it's just continue with the same thing, like I know because I'm teacher, and you don't know because you're a student. And most of them, because they do practice 5 years. Most of these teachers, they do practice of 5 years, and they have a certification authorization on the hand. They think they are the most wise people in the world when they never wash 12 dishes for other people. Do you know what I mean? for the students or I don't know what. They never put themselves in a situation to be part of, of the solution, and not just to play the role of the solution. Do you know what I mean? It's far more important Eastern philosophy, Western philosophy, because, we need to know a little bit of Western philosophy. We are Westerners, most of us, right? Art, connection with art, obviously, in my soul, if you ask me, all people that love Ashtanga, they love art. They are artists. They may left their art behind and do Ashtanga now, but always they're going to carry, the artistic ability. Okay, and one of the most important things that we forget is that Ashtanga belongs to the channel of healing. Okay, why we're doing the practice? We're doing the practice because we are balancing ourselves. When our vitality drops, we just need something to create stability into our system, into our ecosystem. So
how would that balance look practically in the practice? How would you instruct someone to pursue that balance?
Practice will bring balance.
How, on a practical level, how would you suggest that we can pursue balance and healing in the practice?
By practicing.
Just by practicing.
Just by practicing, because we breathe. It's like we have a good oxygen meal, for a couple of hours. And at the same time, we are just in this situation of our thinking, our perspective. It's just like, it's not like, I have to focus on my problematic area. You hear people that say my good side, my bad side, my this side, the other side. The healing is happening all the time of the practice by compassion. The side that's going to be more flexible is going to help the side that is less flexible, meaning that we're not going to keep stretching the side that actually has the ability to be stretched. We're going to step back a little bit in order to the one part to help the other one. So basically, is this constant feeling and compassion backwards and forwards. And something really interesting about that, and Derek as well, because Derek, the last day he was in the practice place, he looked at me before he takes the taxi to go. And that actually was the last time we had a conversation together face to face. That was a month before he died. He looked around, it was like full packed of people because it was September time. And he said, this place is not for me. By the time he was taking chemotherapy, still he will work. He will wake up in the morning, going to do his teaching 5:00, be there for his students, with all the compassion and love he had. And I said, why you say that? Look around you. It's all these beautiful people, and this is a creation of you. He said, yes, but it's a place only for healthy people. So he hit me. It's a place only for healthy people. So in a small part, he failed. Do you know what I mean? Because the practice is for everyone. The practice, we had 100% faith in the practice. And I listened to that and I was like, wow, it followed me after because, I always believe that actually yoga cannot replace everything. Cannot replace your lover, cannot replace your family, cannot replace, your healing process, your therapist. But it's going to take you to the right door. It's going to take you to the right door. So after that day, Derek left and he picked up his luggage and he said, if you love me, you and the children are going to stay here. And the truth is that, and this is the way you see, how the practice affected his mind and how clear he was at the time, even in this confusion he was passing, that actually he had to protect the people he loved. And
so where did he go? Where did he go?
He went for, he said to me he was going for his chemotherapy course in Royal Marsden in England. And in fact, it was like he knew because he asked for all the doctors and everyone, to not tell me anything. Every day he will say on the phone, do your Ashtanga practice, do your meditation practice, eat well, sleep well, giving, and I said, please let me come. He would say, no, I don't want you to come. If you love me, you stay. And 6 days before he died, he went to coma. And then only they told me.
Right.
So
Okay.
basically, I was waiting for him to return. So I went back. I went to England, and Derek gone in 1998. And we still continue. So the healing part is not just when we talk about healing, we are referring as well to sickness. And it's not about sickness. It's about a deep desire of our body, of our heart, of our essence, to offer to our ecosystem and to the other people around, this caring quality, which is really, really important.
So on that line, then, how would you describe a good teacher? What to look for in a good teacher?
Okay, I will just I will just say what Derek was expecting from us. Okay, because this is something that I have more knowledge about what he was expecting from me. First of all, he will expect from me to be compassionate. Secondly, another quality, really important quality, to have emotional intelligence, to know how to react according to the situation. Because when you're a teacher and you give adjustments, or when you're a teacher and you're adapting the practice to the student, to a body that you don't know, you need to activate a part of you that actually is going to work with intelligence. And Iyengar was talking a lot about that, about the body intelligence. So when you communicate with your students, you don't communicate with the mind. You communicate with another part of you, body to body, basically. So it's really important, emotional intelligence. And this is where the second sequence works a lot. That's why Pattabhi Jois used to say first sequence for everyone, second sequence for teachers, third sequence for demonstration, but the demonstration with the most beautiful meaning. Because when you're showing an asana, you need to have control. You need to have robotic movement as an astronaut and knows exactly what it does. So it's a higher skill, all right? And but by passing through the second sequence, really you start to understand more and more about the ability of what emotional intelligence, the way it is reacting, because you work with the nervous system and you carry this mothering sort of like quality when it needs to come up. He's going to be really
a feminine teacher as well. Is that is there something that you could say?
Yes, I mean,
I think it has different. I think that that having been taught, say, I recognised at that time, and that that there was a very different quality in you as a teacher as all the other men pretty much that I had before I came after. And I think that's to be acknowledged. I think that's and it's to do with you as well, but I think it's to do with also. I think it is to do with a different kind of quality that a feminine perspective can bring, and you are.
But don't forget that my main mentor was a male. So,
you had to interpret that as well. And you've come on and you've taught on your own back, for 20 odd years now. And,
Yes, I did, because you see what happened. I mean, just to complete a little bit the question before, what happened with Derek was like about the teachers. What happened is like he wanted the standard of yoga teacher to be recognized by society, and I think he succeeded. He will be very careful about the way he's going to speak, very careful about the way he's going to dress. He's going to be very careful about the way he's going to be in his daily life. Always he was expecting for us to go really high standards of practice before we teach. That was,
kind of like a precursor to a kind of Derek Yoga Alliance. Where you
exactly. It's happening. The last 20 years is happening, right?
Yeah.
I'm
And
sorry
also,
to say that. I was very low profile, but I have a feeling that commercialized teachers destroys them. And I have a feeling that actually I had to be really sure about myself. I gave a promise to Derek that I will continue with his work, because though that everything else fell apart when he died around me, because don't forget, for me, he was my husband, the father of my children, he played many roles. He left me the knowledge, and he left me his children. He left me a purpose. I promised to him I will continue with his work. I will continue with the teaching. I will continue with the teacher trainings as well. He left me a purpose, and though that actually was really ugly time, and I tell you something so maybe you can understand. After his death, I organized a workshop in England, and just 2 months after, and I don't know how many people we invited. We invited many, many people. It came only one person. So that really grounded me on my feet and said, no, under your own wings. That was a message from Derek, not with the name of Derek, not with a list of anyone. No, no, no. Under your own wings, away from the practice place, because freedom is expensive. I mean, this is one thing that I really learned. And I'm so glad that the things happen as they happen. Slowly, slowly, carrying this beautiful essence of teaching and share it with people one by one from scratch. Huh? I had to do it on my own wings.
Right. So you built up from scratch.
And then the magic thing is that I find myself in Brighton again. After I had to sell my house, I left, and then because I needed a soft pillow to restart my work, I found myself in Brighton, and me in the south. I was the first Ashtanga teacher in Brighton. John in London, Hamish in Scotland with Nick Leoning, right? And Gingy in London. We start to build the Ashtanga community, again. And with the help of students of Derek's, of course, me in Brighton with Jeannie and Lynn and Julie Martin and everything. And that was my first individual jewel.
Yeah.
And you have no idea. I mean, sometimes I just, say, it was worth it. All this was so worth it. And, now to be in this position that actually to have the way of Derek's teaching, the way of Pattabhi Jois' teaching, be known by people that actually they own yoga centers. And these people to know and to have this type of emotional intelligence and this beauty, and me be able to share with them this beautiful knowledge, in Europe, but not only Europe. And I am so glad,
I think you mentioned something different and interesting about Derek's kind of code of conduct for the yoga teacher, and that was that you were expected to have a personal sense of ethics. But he was quite clear on personal conduct, right? Which is interesting. I mean, especially that doesn't seem to come into the realm of most yoga teachers these days. That
Yes, I mean, I believe that actually what it needs to be done now is that to give to yoga teachers the tools to teach, but they need to be ready to, appreciate them. I mean, this is the problem at the moment. Everybody can go and do teacher training and pay, 2,000-3,000 euros or whatever, and say, okay, give me a paper that actually says 200, 300. What is this? We're talking about thousands of hours on a magic carpet, which is a yoga mat, right? And it's funny, when I first started, after 2 years, I thought, I know something. I'm just discovering constantly. And I think, all these Indian teachers, not only from the Ashtanga tradition, they're discovering constantly. And I will say as well, we find some changes, but sometimes when we refer back, we understand the meaning, I mean, we say that, for example, in Ashtanga Vinyasa Yoga, we need to have the Tristana. Okay, we need to have gazing, we need to have breathing, we need to have bandhas. we're realizing how much this internal alignment and external, of course, because Drusti is so much important. Drusti, they're working all the face and the head, all the way down to the chest. They're working the muscles and they give you direction. And just to do a small pose here. Yoga Mala is very thin. Yoga Mala is for advanced practitioners, very advanced practitioners. If a student doesn't pass through the Tristana with the Drusti to keep building the asanas, and to understand his internal strength and alignments, and using the Drustis that they are up, down, left, right, to find the right position for the muscles, we cannot really take 100% for what is being given from each asana. It is a code to extract, the information or to download the information at the time. So basically, I think what teachers need now is, first of all, to understand how beautiful it is to have a chance to practice. Not just get into these teacher trainings, grab everything to give them to something or to someone, and not be experienced down to the cell.
It is a commercial thing these days, isn't it? Because everyone knows that they can make money. But I mean, at least when I started, and that was a good 10 years after you started, that wasn't really an assumption that you were ever really going to make money out of it, right? Okay.
Exactly, yeah. No, it was humanitarian work, and still is. And still is.
Yeah.
We have great interest to humanity.
When Derek started doing it, and teaching the teacher training, were they expecting to be making a living out of yoga teacher at that time, as a yoga teacher?
All the students that came, they loved the method. And the thing is that they already had good standards of practice.
Mm.
And a lot of them, they've been to Mysore, and after they traveled to Goa.
They'd already been to Mysore?
Yes. I mean, he would not expect, beginners or people that didn't know what they're doing.
Right.
But it was, and for him, I tell you, he was teaching by himself. Okay, I was assisting, but I was not assisting. I was learning. Okay, I mean, nowadays you do a teacher training and you go to a yoga studio and you say to the main teacher, you say, "Can I help you?" And immediately you expect him to be paid. No. The teacher, Derek, what he did for me was that he opened his classes, and I was there day by day by day. I think I took very, very few days off when I was giving birth, but then I had to be in again.
Mm.
And this is so important, the ways the information I received, the information these people they received, because he was teaching by himself 10 hours per day.
Didn't he have didn't Gingy assist him at all, or John or Hamish assist him?
Not in these teacher trainings.
Right.
These teacher trainings were, him and his students. And Gingy really helped Derek, when he was ill, because he was teaching classes. Me and him, we will go to teach some workshops sometimes when he was not well. We experienced this amazing brotherhood. And Derek had very good friends as well. He was an amazing friend. He had really good friends, from America. People that actually, they were exceptional. And I really thank them, for all the support, because also the relationship with Pattabhi Jois was really strong. Because I hear lately, sometimes people, they talk about Derek. It doesn't happen often. And they say, no, he was physical and this and that. First of all, a person who says he's spiritual is not spiritual. To me, right? This is my opinion, okay? Mm. Secondly, Derek, he tried really hard to pass, the compassion and the awareness and the awakening to his students. Body is the key to this situation. Without body, you cannot do anything. And at the same time, Pattabhi Jois loved him, adored him. The students that will go there from Derek, they will be really looked after by Pattabhi Jois. So I don't know, what else, shows this, but changing the lives of people, definitely, it requires a spirituality, in my opinion, Mm-hmm. So this is what I think needs to happen with the students.
Well, we're kind of running out of time on the format. This is about an hour. It's been wonderful to have you.
I just wanted to say a few things about Derek as well, because I'm going to be very short. I actually had to write them down because it was so many things, the things that he was trying to find ways of bringing the knowledge to, to students and to make Ashtanga known. Okay, he was the first one, as we said before, to look after the teachers and give them information about, how to avoid injuries, what kind of, variations they have to do and everything to use. Then he was the first one, actually, that he created the talk primary with words, not 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, because we have to understand this, that the talk primary that they use in Mysore is for advanced practitioners. It's not for people that are learning the method. Okay, so basically, that was a great tool for the Western people because we have a completely different way of understanding and of educate ourselves. Okay, so what he did was very personally, he sat down and he said, word by word, the vinyasa. Inhale, jump through, exhale, sit down, Satchitanasana. And then inhale, open the chest, exhale, extend forward, hook with 2 fingers, each one of the big toes. Okay. Inhale, open the chest, look up, exhale, open, extend forward. And the analysis now. There's analysis into the asana. It's not 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Pull up the kneecaps and the thighs, open the chest, look your big toes, roll the shoulders back and down. Constantly with the words, verbal adjustments. So verbal adjustments, he was the first one actually to give us such a clarity in a sequence, which it requires a lot of knowledge there. Then he was the first one to do the videotape with Radha, right? So he was the first one to create the chart with a professional chart of the practice place. I would say these 3 people you see upper facing, downward facing, and okay, that was the log of the practice place. And all these that happen, by John Scott with the guidance of Derek. I mean, how it's going to be done, which postures, and we can see that. It's Hanumanasana inside, postures actually Derek received from Pattabhi Jois. Okay, that was our tool to learn the sequence. And then, the first one actually that he imagined the sticky yoga mat because he was practicing in Germany. He lifted the carpet. There were not yoga mats at the time. They were doing in a rug. And then he see this sticky thing under the carpet that actually they will have the size of a yoga mat, sticky yoga mat. And they will sell it in rolls in Germany. And he went to find the place they make it, and then he will cut, and we will use the first sticky mats in Crete. Things he will find always ways. And the most important way about his teaching...
Carpet. That was the first yoga mat. Right? Carpet.
That was the first sticky yoga mat ever been used.
I've heard most of the other stories, but that one I didn't know. Yeah, well, that's. Yeah.
And but the most important thing about the yoga education, he created a curriculum, a way of passing the knowledge to the Westerners. He created the Ashtanga Yoga beginners course that in 10 classes he will pass you through with variations. But all of them, they have to start together, no new entries, and all of them, they're going to finish together. Then he will do the talk primary, then he will put you to the Mysore class. So you have to do the course of 10 classes, 10 classes in talk primary, and then Mysore class. And that was the way, like, you're learning a language. This is a course. And in Mysore, you knew not exactly, but you had an idea how you're going to work. So basically, that's what I wanted to say. His huge contribution on yoga education.
To the way of teaching it. Yeah, to the way of teaching it and to the way of teaching teachers as well. Yeah.
Absolutely. And we continue with that.
You are also a kind of very well-respected teacher in your own right. And where can people find you? You're not teaching in Crete right now, are you? But you're teaching a little bit just internationally, right?
I am teaching in the summer in Crete, in a village outside Rethymna. And we're respecting, the students of Ashtanga, of any tradition, of any teachers. And we're going to respect the practice. And we keep up with the principles of our lineage, with Pattabhi Jois, with Krishnamacharya, and definitely with Derek. And I want to take the opportunity just to say as well that we do workshops in the winter, around Europe. We're going to go to Bali as well, and teacher trainings as well, whoever wants to involve more. But we need to have a really strong base for that. Please don't show up if you don't have a really good base, and if you are not really in a position to take a teacher training. Please don't come. And
these days, most teachers would just say, "Yeah, just come and pay me some money."
No, okay. We're not like this. We may not be the most wealthy, but it's okay. And what I wanted really to say, apart from thanking you for giving me the opportunity to speak about Derek, is that I would like to thank my children, because they've been my three children, my three beautiful children, because for me they've been the strength of my life. And I would like to thank a lot the people that are supporting me, and they know who they are, and they will laugh when they listen to this.
Thank you very much, Kristina.
Thank you so much. Thank you for everything.